With the success of the G.I. Joe Classified series HasLab HISS Tank and the reveals at SDCC 2022, what other small vehicles and playsets could be looming on the horizon? And before we dive into the episode, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you can be alerted to the latest reviews, news, and episodes when they drop. Hey everyone, welcome back to Toy Habits. I'm Michael, and with me is my collector in crime, Larry. Now, the HasLab HISS Tank is like the Energizer Bunny that keeps going and going and going, which got us thinking, what small vehicles and playsets in the G.I. Joe Classified series would be great additions to the line?
Yeah, I think this one kind of kicks open the door, right? It helps Hasbro gauge kind of fan interest, and it kind of helps, us as fans to see what they're capable of and kind of how much space stuff like this takes up on the shelf and, what they can do with packaging and all this stuff. So I think it's good on both sides.
Oh yeah, I think so too. And yeah, I didn't really think they'd actually make a Classified series vehicle this big, but with 17,500 backers, there's a lot of people that are wanting this thing.
Yeah, I would say that's a lot of people. Maybe not compared to some other stuff, but for $300, I think that's a pretty good support. What the funny thing that I hadn't thought about, but do you remember way back when we started making these videos? We did a couple episodes about classified vehicles, and I remember at the time we were kind of laughing like, most of this stuff probably isn't going to happen. It was fun to talk about, but I know for me personally, I don't think we're ever going to see any classified vehicles. I think maybe like the Baroness with the with the cycle and stuff like that. Yeah. I think that those seem pretty easy to get taken care of. But something like this, I just didn't think we were going to really get anything. So it's cool to see one come to fruition, and hopefully they continue on with this.
Yeah, I remember those. I remember one of our pipe dreams was a Classified series Terrordrome, which was as big as a house.
Just $3,000,
right?
20,000 supporters, and a piece of cake.
Yeah. Just fit that in your collector room, and you're good.
Yeah. I've got the room all set up for it.
There you go.
Right here in the middle of the floor.
Oh, wait. I can't even see the addition that you built in your house anyway for it. So. All right. Also at SDCC, Hasbro revealed some smaller vehicles, including Serpentor and his air chariot, and they also revealed a Cobra Flight Pod that is packed with the Televiper.
Yeah, and this is kind of the cool stuff. Is some of these smaller things that to me wouldn't be all that pricey. They probably could be sold at retail. I think there's just a lot of different options if you start going with this kind of stuff. So I think these are good.
Yeah, I think that these two vehicles are perfect for the scale because it's like, well, one of them, the Flight Pod, it's like an army building vehicle, right? Like, I'm going to buy several of these. I'm not sure where I'm going to put them, but I love this thing.
Yeah, but that's the thing, they're small enough you can kind of just put them with figures. They're almost become like part of the figure display. You don't have to kind of like even some of the Motu stuff, it's kind of like figuring out a shelf that particular, vehicle or play set's going to go. But something like a Flight Pod is small enough that it could just be kind of incorporated with figures, I think.
Oh, yeah. And it's also something you could throw on the ceiling, too, with some fishing wire really easily, just like the air chariot. So that would actually free up some space, too.
Yeah, and it looks super cool.
Yes, it does. And with that, we are going to run down our favorite small vehicles and play sets Hasbro could make in the Classified series scale, but just as a note, these are not official Hasbro reveals or teases. This is just a list Larry and I cooked up for vehicles and play sets we would love to see in the line. So let's actually start off with the Cobra Flight Pod, aka the Trouble Bubble. And we actually cooked up this list before the reveals at Comic-Con, and it was actually cool to see this revealed with the Televiper as a pack-in, which was also our choice for a figure to come with this as well.
Yeah, it was funny because we had kind of come up with a list of things and thrown together some images, and just hadn't really had time to record the episode yet. Just kind of in preparation, just because with the HISS Tank coming out, we just thought, some of these smaller play sets and vehicles would be pretty easy for them to knock out. And the Flight Pod seemed like an easy choice, and Televiper has kind of always been envisioned as part of that set. So I think that these were kind of a fun thing to have in there, and cool that it's actually going to come to fruition.
Oh yeah, I think so too, and I think there's 3D printing that's rampant across the internet, and I'm not surprised that you found a custom 3D printed flight pod. But yeah, I'm actually really itching to get this, and with name only reveals, we have no idea. I mean, we have some idea what this thing is going to look like, but this gives you kind of a good idea of what you might get.
Yeah, I actually think that the actual release, I think it might be kind of smaller. I don't know if it'll be kind of this bulky, I guess. I know in just looking for customs, I didn't really find a whole lot of them. I thought I might run across, a dozen or so.
Yeah.
But really I only found, I think, this one. And some of the things I found for this episode, there were stuff from a while back even, it's not even from the last year or anything. So, like, to me, yeah, this gives you kind of an idea of things to look for, and just kind of things to hope for, I guess, like maybe certain aspects of it you like and don't like. So
Yeah, I think like on the aspects that I think are missing from this custom, like the vintage one had tubes running out of it and rudders, so I think it'd be cool to see that because that would be great in that to see in that larger scale.
yeah, I agree. And I know, in reading a little bit of, I think the customizer was talking about, he had trouble with the kind of the glass piece, forming that, and I think he said he'd found a better way to do that for, future
Oh, that's
versions
cool.
or whatever. And so yeah, I think that, there's a lot of different things that could be changed, but I think it's going to be awesome when it's released.
Oh, totally. And as a figure pack in for the Trouble Bubble, we know that the Televiper is coming with it, like the 25th anniversary set did back in 2008.
Yeah, I actually still have that. It's one of the. I don't have a lot of Joe stuff, but I still have that with the Televiper. And I've always thought he was a super cool figure. I loved the helmet and just the colors and all that stuff. So I think it's a cool figure. And this custom was a cool one. And I think that the classified figure itself could end up looking fairly similar to this.
Oh yeah, I really want to see how they would deal with his gun or whatever that was in his backpack,
Yep.
and also like the tubing too, because the little 3 3/4 inch figures came with those little pesky black tubes that we'd always lose.
Yeah. It is just a small piece of tubing, and you would think that'd be a pretty easy thing to come up with, and it is used everywhere. I mean,
Yeah,
was back in the '80s, so
yeah, that's right. That's some mass produced little plastic piece.
yep.
But all right, next up we have the Jump, which is the Jet Mobile Propulsion Unit, which always puzzled me because the letters aren't in the right order. But we could see something like this probably with a silver padded Grand Slam or possibly a Starduster included, like Yojo ARAH did.
Yeah, and in looking for customs for this, a lot of them didn't have the platform. They just had the jetpack itself, and but I think the platform is kind of a cool part of it, just
Yeah.
because once again it's something that doesn't have to take up a ton of space, but it also adds a lot of kind of a lot of character to a shelf.
Oh yeah, this one is especially cool because I mean it really replicates the 3 3/4 inch one just in that 6 inch scale, and the details are amazing. And like with 3D printing now, there's so many components you could put on here and just like computer details and just the riveting on the platform. There's so much you can do now.
Yeah, there really is. I mean, probably if Hasbro doesn't kind of get moving on this kind of stuff, we'll see even more and more of this get made by customizers and people with 3D printers, just because there's a demand for it. People want this kind of stuff. And I think the other cool thing about this platform is, if you think about this on a shelf, if you throw a couple figures in there kind of in a scene, it almost acts as a riser,
Oh yeah.
where you could kind of add, position figures in front of it too, where you get more real estate out of your shelf there, because it's a way to kind of separate figures out a little bit and kind of get some height added to it. So I like that part of it too.
Oh yeah, I like the way you think because I have so many risers in my room that I use, and like if I could replace it with something like this, that would be awesome.
Yeah, because it's a part of kind of making a scene out of the thing, and it keeps the figures from just being kind of stagnant, just standing there being boring.
Yeah, like I like the figures behind me, like they're just kind of just stuck in rows, on some of them on risers, and I'm like, need to find a more interesting way to display them.
Yeah, and that's what I usually end up doing with mine. Is I just and they just end up in rows, but yeah, if you can find a way. if there's enough of this kind of stuff that gets released, then it gives you a lot of different display options.
Yes, and talking about options, there's a lot of other things that you can do with this
Yes.
particular version.
Yeah, I mean, the flame effects and stuff like that would be, it feels like a necessity at this point. I think because to me, you could use them for several different things. They could be a multi-purpose effect.
Hmm.
You could use them in different ways, and so I think they would kind of add to the display value for a jetpack. And I think the idea of being able to make a Cobra version of this as well is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I think so too. And like going back to the flame effects, like Hasbro makes all of these blast effects for the Transformers, and they're just starting to use these effects on GI Joe. And they've made some in the past. I remember Torch in the Valor versus Venom line coming with that. Flamethrower, flame attachment, and I thought that was cool. Like they should do a lot more of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a cool kind of pack in, kind of helps build out the accessories that they come with, and you can do a lot of different stuff with these. So I think if they can find ways to kind of make a multi-purpose where they could reuse them and maybe recolor things for different effects, I think there's a lot of value there.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, like making this into a Cobra jetpack, because yeah, I think in the cartoon, like the Cobras had jetpacks too. So it's like, all right, this will be
Yeah.
speaking of like reuse and having
Yes,
multi-purpose.
exactly.
They can make
Exactly,
them.
and that's the thing though is take Motu for example. There's a ton of parts reuse and different things, and if Hasbro could find a way to be able to make this a Joe or a Cobra kind of thing where they could reuse it down the road for with just a paint switch and maybe a couple accessories that come with it or something to make it different.
Hmm.
You get a lot more mileage out of it that way.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the Ram cycle, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean we could. Yeah, yep. The RAM cycle. If we could get a few more of those.
Well, I mean, the Dreadnought version, I'm sure, is coming down the line because that was a Sears exclusive. So I mean, it's got to be coming at some point.
Yeah, you would think so. The sad thing is, if they did a Dreadnought one, I bet it'd be cool. I'd probably want it.
I
So
know, I know. I'm like no more Rams like no more Ram cycles unless it's the Dreadnought Ram cycle.
yeah, and then we'll take 6 of
Yeah, there you go. For our non-existent Dreadnought classified series figures.
them. Yeah.
All right. Next up is the MMS or SMS, and selfishly, like this is a pipe dream of mine. I want Hasbro to reveal this as a surprise unlock for as the SMS as a thank you for the nearly 17,500 backers that it already has for the HISS tank.
But the problem is they've already got you.
I know, I know. Just
They've
say
already got
thank you and make
17,000
this.
of them sold, and they don't need to give you anything more.
I know. That's why it's a pipe dream.
I know, and I'm just joking. I mean, I think this would be awesome if they did reveal something like this. But even with all that aside, I think this seems like stuff like this just seems so easy.
Yeah.
Like it seems like such an easy thing to kind of come up with and sell. I don't see how it would be that tough to sell a bunch of these.
Yeah, and they're very versatile too. So like the his, they made a big deal about the his tank coming with a tow hitch, and it's like they haven't revealed anything for it to tow yet. So maybe that's coming down the line.
I think that there's a lot of different things they could do with that. And I think that hopefully stuff like the trouble bubble comes out, and if they sell a ton of those, then that opens the door for even more things.
Yeah.
And I hope that that's what happens is they kind of start seeing kind of the money to be made here. I guess. I mean, maybe it's not that much money more. They really don't care. But I think if it's something that they can there's fairly little risk for as far as if you could make something like this, if you can get kind of the molds and all that stuff paid for with the initial release, and then you're able to come back along and release 2 other versions of it down the road,
Yeah.
and then that's just basically profit at that point.
Yep.
Then that's a little different story. So
Yeah, and then like given the versatility of this one, they did make 3 versions of this back in the day: the MMS, the SMS, and then the Canadian version, which was the one with the black missiles on it.
yeah, and I think this would look great on the shelf. It would look cool with the HISS tank. It would look cool with other small vehicle releases. There's a lot of different ways you could use it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And
next up is the Cobra Bunker, and this was actually one of my favorite things to play with as a kid. Like this is this is where I had all of my Cobra troops in. Like I didn't stuff them all in there, but you know, it was part of the scene. It was part
oh,
of the big battle scene I had in my in my family room.
I didn't think I knew about this as a kid because I think my first experience was with this was one of the episodes we made.
Oh.
You put this in there
Mhm.
as something that would be cool to see for like I don't know if it was the retro collection
Yeah.
or what, but I think that this is just it's an awesome kind of small scale playset.
Yeah.
It's once again adds just kind of a crazy amount of customizability for your display. Like just there's just so much more you can do with stuff like this, and I mean there's a lot of options to it too. I mean there's I think the custom here had, the guy put a light inside it and
Oh,
stuff. So
nice.
there's a ton of kind of, small upgrades that they could do to make this a really cool release for classified.
Yeah, I think this was a fun one, particularly because you got to put it together, and it didn't really stay together very well, and so like the minute you hit it with something, it would just kind of obliterate and fall over and or explode. And I think that's one of the cool parts about it. So if they can figure out a way to make this buildable, I would definitely want this.
Well, and then the other thing about that is it also makes it to where the box doesn't have to be that big,
Right.
right? And that's another good aspect of it. If you can make it to where it comes in pieces and then you just kind of assemble it, the packaging isn't that much, so it doesn't take that much space up on the retail shelves, and kind of a lot of different advantages that way.
Yeah, I would love to see that huge like rocket Scud missile in a 6-inch scale. That would be awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it would. It'd be massive, right?
Yeah. It would. I don't know. It might open up the door to have them make a stinger in the future too.
Yep, and that's the thing, like making stuff like this, you can use it for other things, so it does open up other possibilities down the road.
Yes. And next up is another one of my favorite toys as a kid. I remember actually getting this one for my birthday, and it's the Skyhawk.
Yeah, I never had one of these as a kid, but that's awesome, awesome kind of look to it. I love that this custom had some kind of battle damage to it. And I think that's kind of a cool thing that they could do with classified because with a larger scale and it just gives you more options for adding extra detail like that, and hopefully they would take care of the issue with like the cockpit having enough room for the drivers
Yeah.
to sit regularly and look natural and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think this one is in 3 3/4 inch scale, but I think the battle damage is the part that is the most interesting thing. But I think this is also another one where the parts were hard to keep on. So like the tail fins and the side fins always fell off. So I think it was kind of cool because you can as you're flying it around, you can kind of make believe that Cobra's shooting you down or something.
Yeah. Yep, and of course nobody's getting shot down, so they're
Yeah.
jumping out with
Oh,
parachutes.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, you did come across one in classified series scale. So I mean, this thing looks like the 3 3/4 inch scale, just bigger.
Yeah, it really does. This is a great custom, and I think this is kind of what we could hope for. And then you just need some paint apps and some stickers, and it'd be awesome.
Yeah, and then this is another one you could throw up on the ceiling too. So there's that relieves the pressure on the shelf.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And stuff like this. I mean, you can find ways to kind of get a good balance with fishing line to be able to make it look like it's flying or hovering or whatever. So
Yeah, and then also too, I guess with gung ho on the side of it too, I think it's like your idea with the jump. You can put figures on it and kind of make it a less boring display.
yeah, yeah, it gives you the ability to add some extra figures in there without taking up shelf space. Sometimes it's for me. I use like maybe figures I don't really know how else they fit into my display.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like a variant figure or whatever, and it gives you a way to kind of include them in the display where you don't just throw them in a box somewhere, but it also doesn't take up space.
Yeah. Definitely. And next up is, I'm probably going to say this again. It's another one of my favorite great memories with this one. It's the
Oh,
Cobra Snake. And I remember an MMS missile would always find its way to the snake and just obliterate it into pieces. And I guess that's probably my major theme is like come out with stuff that you could just obliterate and put
just
back
everything.
together.
Yep. And this again, this was one I never had. and I don't know what I think about design direction
Yeah.
for this one. You know, like because I know like this, of course, doesn't look anything like the vintage release. But would we want it to be exactly the same as that vintage style, or we want them to kind of update it? This to me looks a little bit similar to like the Horde Trooper
Hmm.
from Motu, but I do think that there are cool things about it. I kind of like the I like the style of the legs and stuff like that. So I don't know which direction I'd like to see them go with it.
Yeah, I think projectiles would be actually really cool to introduce with this one too. Like that missile that's coming out of the arm kind of gave me that idea. It's like, what if that just kind of shot somewhere?
Yeah, it'd be cool and stuff like that. You know, it's you see that done in a lot of different toys and stuff, so it shouldn't be too hard for them to pull off. You know.
Yeah, and I think too, like I guess with 3D printing now, if you actually take the snake apart, you can actually do some really cool stuff on the inside to represent circuitry, and of course the armor effects on the outside would be really cool too.
Yeah. There's a ton of stuff they could do, and I would hope to see some of that stuff where you could kind of see some of the inner workings, maybe some control panels on the inside and stuff like that.
Yeah. And this is also another thing that they could do three flavors of. They had the white one, which was the general release, the Action Force one, which was the UK version, which was red, and then they released a blue one in 1985.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Put them all out.
Yeah. All right, and next up is the swamp skier, and yes, yeah, there are a lot of 3D printed swamp skiers out there.
Yeah, there's a ton, and I think the fun of this one, of course, for me anyways, was that it kind of collapsed and you could have Zartan haul it around in the box
Yeah.
and just that the whole package of that was cool. I think the fact that it broke down like that,
Yeah.
and I think that the cut like this custom here, I like that it's got some different colors and it looks like the old one, but it's kind of got its own flair too. And I think there's different ways they could go. It doesn't need to be exactly like the vintage one, but I
No.
think if you made it fairly close and have some of those familiar aspects thrown in, I think it could be pretty cool and shouldn't be very expensive to make or buy.
No, I like the collapsibility of it, and again, it's one of those things that you can take apart and put back together. And the one
Yes.
that Stronach's custom, it's got some Star Wars vibes to it too.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of got a little bit of both. And with classified, you maybe have some extra spots to stow gear and different things like that. So I think there's a lot of cool things they could do here.
Yeah, and with what three Zartans that they have now, like they have to come out with a swamp skier. You can't have that many Zartans without a swamp skier.
No, I think we need it. And I think it'd be to me it feels like kind of about that same size as like the Trouble Bubble.
Yeah.
I think that you could do something like that. But we talked about we don't want another Zartan with this, right?
No, we have
Um,
plenty. Unless they just make a color changing one that is not an exclusive, so everybody can have it.
yeah,
Maybe.
yeah, I'd be good with that. I still want. I know we're close on the Hasbro Pulse exclusive, but I still want a color changing one with the clear chest piece
Yeah.
and just I want the exact 80s Zartan just in classified. I want just the whole thing, just exactly.
Yeah.
Just blow it up into classified scale and we're good.
That's awesome. And speaking of color changing, you thought of a good idea as a pack in for this one, and it would be Zandar. And I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I loved the Zandar figure as a kid. I don't know, he was always one of my favorites to play with, and just the kind of the cool Zartan family I thought was just a lot of fun, and I hope we get him in classified. I think with Zorana coming out, this would be a cool way to kind of do release Xandar with the Swamp Skier because we probably don't need another Zartan.
Right.
But at least this kind of keeps it in the family, and it gets Xandar out there. And I think this would be a cool way to do it, make him color change. And I like different things about these customs. I think that my favorite is the one on the left. I just kind of like the head sculpt a lot,
Yeah.
and kind of like how they handled kind of his shirt, kind of the way it's tattered and stuff. I like what they did there, but there are things I liked about the other two as well. So what do you think?
Yeah, I like the head sculpt on the left, and I do like how they handled the I guess the gun in the middle one. And so
Yeah,
I think if I just mash them all together and make a super cool one.
yeah, I do too. I kind of like the kind of the pants, kind of the lower body of the one on the right,
Yeah.
maybe the most. I kind of like the coloring and stuff. I think what looks good, but yeah, I think there's a lot of cool stuff they could do, but I really would like to see Zandar for classified.
Oh yeah, and definitely have to have those abs showing too, just kind of like the vintage figure, right?
Of course, yeah, and I don't know why it's so important, but that's how he was. That's
Yeah.
how I had to be.
All right, and next up is the APC, which is the amphibious personnel carrier. Again, one of my favorites that I used to play with in the hot tub.
Yeah, and this one would be cool because you can throw a lot of guys in it,
Yeah.
right? And it's not big, you know. It's bigger than some of the other things, but I think it's still small enough that it's probably about the size of the Hiss, you
Hmm.
know. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think this would be a cool release as well.
Yeah, and I think there could be some neat things that you could do with the top. You could actually, instead of making it a hard plastic top, you could actually do it in fabric. I think that would be neat.
Yeah, I mean it would probably cut down on the
Yeah.
cost, and it would I think it'd be a cool way to do something different, and probably would save on packaging a little bit too because you don't have the kind of the full size of the thing to put in the box. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of advantages to doing something like that.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like, I just noticed that the turret on the 3 3/4 inch line one, it does have some like mechanics around the turret, which kind of blend in with the netting that's going around the top. But Yojo ARAH kind of built and kind of made that more fleshed out, and he kind of put that machinery so you can actually see it, which is cool detail.
It is cool detail, and it actually makes a lot more sense
Yeah.
than the other way because it's like did they go through and like spray paint all that stuff to
Yeah.
camouflage it?
Right, and then just left a green turret, right?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I think you're right. It's this thing probably won't be this big, but it would be actually a cool idea to use it as a massive troop transport. But as Yojo ARAH used it as a mobile prisoner transport, maybe we can call it the MPT.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool too.
Yeah.
And it's gives you a way to if you've amassed a crazy large Cobra troop army, then yeah, this gives you somewhere to put some of them if you don't want them all out on the shelf.
Yeah, I thought that was a neat idea. I actually just noticed the handcuffs in there too, but using
Yeah,
that, like, I guess they meant those bars as a safety belt, but now they're just keeping them tied down.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, and I think he had thrown in heavy metal as a figure custom for this one, and actually I think it's neat to kind of use. I think like you were thinking about Zandar for the swamp skier, just using some of the figures that came with maybe things that they would never make. Like they would never make that huge helicopter.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the idea is finding some ways to do stuff like that where you can get a figure that you might not otherwise get. So
Yeah. All right, and last up is the Dreadnought Thunder Machine, and I think this is high on many collectors' lists that, just looking through our comments from older videos that we've done on speculation, it's like people wanting Mossman for Motu. This is like the Thunder Machine is G.I. Joe's Mossman.
yeah, exactly. And I don't. I mean, it's awesome. Don't get me wrong, but I really don't know what makes this one stand out a lot because yeah, we do get a lot of people that bring the Thunder Machine up, and it's cool. I mean, both these customs came out really good, and they both
Yeah.
have kind of their own flair and different style, and so I don't really know what direction I would want to see a classified version take. Whether I'd want it to be pretty much just a remake of the vintage one, or if I want them to kind of change it up a little bit. They haven't had a lot of success as far as doing that for figures for classified,
Yeah.
so.
Right. Yeah, I like the middle one because you can actually definitely feel that like that this one was pieced together, like versus like the other ones kind of look more thought out. And it's like, okay, we'll take a front end of a car and we'll just smash it on and we'll stick this guardrail on the front.
Yeah, I think I like the look of the one on top.
Yeah.
But that the one on the bottom in the middle there, yeah, it does have that kind of junkyard scrap feel to it. So I like that part of it.
Yeah, I think it would be neat to like just have it come with actual rubber tires and
Yes.
just I love the just like the rustiness of that one in the middle too. I mean, it looks like it could fall apart at any second.
But it also looks like they could drive it through and really do some damage with it. So
Oh yeah, the Gatling. So like the Gatling guns would be reused parts, right? Because they've used that for the ram cycle. They've used it for roadblock. So hey, they've already started on it, right?
maybe they could find a way to incorporate a ram cycle into this.
I'm telling you, it's the Dreadnought ram cycle.
Yep.
We'll pack that one in there. Yeah, and again, like I remember on the 3 3/4 inch one, you had the foot pegs. So again, you can put your non-existent Dreadnoughts on there.
Yeah, that's the thing. If we ever get some dreadnoughts to drive around in and on this thing, it would be great.
Yeah, definitely. All right, and here's our list of smaller form factor vehicles and playsets we'd love to see in the G.I. Joe Classified series line. And this is a great mix of land, air, and just playsets in general.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of a good mix of different things, and I think this would add a lot of fun for the classified line, and a lot of cool display options as well.
Oh, definitely, and I can't wait to see how many people call out the Thunder Machine as a one. So I'm gonna have to keep a tally on that one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let us know what your favorite small vehicle or playset you would love to see in the Classified series in the comments below. I'm Michael,
And I'm Larry.
and thanks for tuning into Toy Habits.